How does, say, a classical liberal differ to a modern conservative? Because on the surface they seem rather similar.
Um, yeah, liberals, even with John Stuart Mill, it was he believed that the freedom of the individual is everything. And to achieve that, the individuals, all customs, traditions, was all dead weight should be cleared away because that inhibited the individual from expressing themselves. And John Stuart Mill says that. That's a classical. So it's all about being free to express yourself. That's fun. But part of that was clearing away customs, traditions, which will get in the way of that. Conservatives have the opposite view, which is that so you can't really be free in any meaningful sense. Have values which will enable you to choose, rather than just being an instinctive animal, a bundle of desires, to actually have values. There's only one place that can come from, and that is from customs, traditions, and inherited um, culture. Where else does it come from? You can be a rebel, of course, and reject it, but you have to start with something inherited. And I think that's a huge difference with classical liberalism and conservatism. Culture matters.
From, say, classical liberalism to modern conservatism to the future,
Yeah,
what is your take as the editor of the Salisbury Review on the future of conservatism? So at the moment, you have certainly on the right, you have Farage championing
yeah.
his court, and then you have Kemi Badenoch championing her court as well. Where does the review fit in amongst those two icons of the future?
I'm not sure we sort of go in between or in that sense. I think Kemi Badenoch is and Nigel Farage both sound on woke. They absolutely would absolutely agree with that. On freedom of speech, yes, definitely. Kemi Badenoch doesn't. I'm not sure she has much sense of there being anything beyond the market. And a deep, as we're looking, I suppose, to encourage to a sense of affection, love for all the best things about this country, a sense of shared memories, a sense of um, a common culture. I think the problem with Farage, I think, is that his instincts are often very good. He has an instinctive sense of that, but there isn't any philosophy behind it, and I think he's too much of a market man. Though the interesting in the Reform Manifesto, there are there is quite a lot of intervention. Surprising amount. I don't think any of the figures add up at all, but there was quite a lot. That the state should be involved in key services, utilities was in there, which I'd agree with. The sense that traditions matter, customs, traditions, our national culture matters. It's where we get our values from, and it's what people could be integrated into as they have in the past. And that's a tragedy, that if you forbid any mention of a host or indigenous culture, in England's case, English culture and civilization, there's nothing for people to integrate into. There's nothing to bring people together. And that's a tragedy. I don't think there's any sense of that in Kemi Badenoch, and I don't think Nigel Farage articulates. I think he senses that, but there's a underlying philosophy, a conservative philosophy, underlying him as such.